Okay, so for today we will discuss the general types of research. So for the intended learning outcome, you must differentiate or distinguish the different types of research. You should identify the key characteristics and applications of qualitative, quantitative, basic, and applied research. And of course, we must align appropriate type of research with your criminological topics. But of course, before we proceed, you must think first, or you must answer first. Why do you think understanding research type is important? Bakit kailangan nating alamin kung ano yung klaseng research type ang gagamitin natin sa ating study? Okay? So, I think nakapag-isip na kayo and here is the answer. Of course, because your research design must be aligned with your research problem and objectives. Meaning to say, katulad ng pinresent natin sa SOP presentation, kailangan yung SOP natin ay align. O kung ano yung SOP natin, doon tayo magde-determine kung anong research design ang gagamitin natin. Okay. Now, pag ang tanong natin is ano ang research type na gagamitin natin sa ating criminology problem o sa ating SOP, no? So, pwede kasing nahahati siya, 'di ba? In different kinds, such as meron tayong qualitative, if you want to understand the experiences and behaviors ng malalim. We also have the quantitative, if you want to measure relationship and test the hypothesis with data. And we also have applied research kung saan we're evaluating the effectiveness of programs or policy. Etong mga research na to is not only syempre limited in generally, in research and in other profession, meron tayong iba't ibang klase. But in criminology, ito yung most common. Quantitative, qualitative, and applied. Because it's very common for us to evaluate a specific program or intervention to test whether effective ba ang isang policy or not. Okay? So, later I will discuss further ano yung subtypes ng qualitative research, ano yung subtypes ng quantitative research. So, for the subtypes of quantitative research, we have the following. We have descriptive research design. So, descriptive research design, it focuses on systematically observing and documenting behaviors, events, or conditions without manipulating the variables. Ibig po sabihin, hindi tayo nag-intervene kung ano yung natural na nangyayari or existing in that specific event, wala tayong gagalawin doon. So it provides a comprehensive understanding of crime patterns, victimization, and social phenomena. So aiding in the development of effective criminal justice policies. So, ang purpose talaga ng descriptive is to understand the details, specific group attributes. Like, ano ba yung perception ng isang population, no, ng isang community towards the 5 minutes response time policy of the PNP. Ganyan. So, ang example dito would be surveying respondents on safety perceptions in a barangay. Medyo maliit lang siya. So, yun yung isang example. But technically, if we want to measure the response or the perception of a community, of a population, then we will use descriptive. So, if we want to describe something using a, sabihin natin a survey, and we want to determine ano yung perception nila, aware ba sila or not, those are descriptive. For correlation research design, ito siya. Dali. It is significant in criminology because primarily it focused on the relationship between various factors related to crime. So, well, according to Holmes and Taggart in 1990, these designs are particularly useful for understanding crime causation, social control, and delinquency as evidenced by their prevalence in criminology journals. Of course, ano yung importance ng correlational? Ang correlational ay tumutulong for us to determine the associations between variables, such as, for example, the link between educational levels and crime rates. Because some of you want to determine whether yung bang education levels ay may effect sa crime rates in a community. So, data utilization. If, for example, yung researcher wants to analyze cross-sectional data to explore this relationship, allowing for timely insights into crime patterns. So, also that's correlational. So, however, some of the limitations of correlational is that though it creates relationship again between variables, it does not establish causality. Ibig po sabihin, hindi po ibig sabihin na si X ay siya ang cause ng Y. Ibig sabihin, hindi siya cause and effect relationship. Sinasabi lang natin na pag tumataas si X, tumataas si Y. But it doesn't mean na it's a cause and effect relationship. So pag correlational, ang implication, kapag tumataas si independent variable, tumataas si dependent variable. Independent, it's the cause. Independent ha. And dependent variable is the effect. Meaning to say, ito yung wala tayong ginalaw doon. Ito yung effect talaga. So, again, iba po ang cause and effect, iba ang correlational. Okay? Usually, we call ko yung cause and effect as causal comparative. Ayan. So, in this drawing, no, makikita natin some of the examples of correlational. So, if we want to examine how education level influences offending behavior, that's one. Pwedeng maging example to ng correlational. So, analyzing also the probability of committing offenses. And dito rin na natin makikita yung patterns and association niya. So, and then later on, that will, of course, inform us as to the intervention or policy that we may utilize or use in a particular community. Ayan. Kasi nga, in correlation, makikita natin yung relationship ng dalawang variable. Example of which nga is education level and offending behavior. So, that is yung tinatawag natin na yung X, ayan, ay may relationship ba papunta kay Y. Okay? Again, X is the independent variable and Y is the dependent variable. Sometimes, we also have mediating variable or intervening variable. When we say mediating variable, meron bang effect itong nasa gitna papunta rito kay Y? Okay? So, tinitingnan natin yung relationship ng tatlo. Later on, as I explain yung tinatawag na paradigm or research paradigm, dun yun makikita yung relationship ng bawat variables. So another kind of research is experimental. Okay. Experimental, though not common talaga siya sa crime, we need also to understand this. Kapag experimental, nandyan yung ina-analyze natin yung effect o yung effect, yung cause and effect relationship ng isang bagay. Like for example, yung police visibility, no? So, that would be the cause, yung police visibility, and ang effect ay reduction of crimes. Ganun. So, usually, pag experimental, we must always remember that it's controlled. Ibig sabihin, minamanipulate natin ang independent variable. Meron tayong nilagay na isang bagay. Nagkaroon ng intervention. Okay? So, and it's also randomized study. However, ang cons sa experimental kaya hindi masyadong popular sa crime because of ethical concerns. Madalas kasi ito ay more on sa laboratory. No? And of course, naging artificial yung environment. Kaya hindi siya, that's one of the negative implication. And merong generalizability issues. So, ibig po sabihin, hindi natin pwedeng sabihin na porket effective kay community A ay effective kay community B, no? So hindi natin na-generalize ang effect ng experimental. Kaya hindi siya masyadong popular sa criminology research. Okay. So this paragraph I found it no habang nagbabasa ako. Sinasabi nito na ang experimental is increasingly recognized but lalo na daw sa crime prevention intervention. However, in Nordic criminology, hindi siya masyadong popular sa research kasi 1.8% lang ang articles na na-publish using experimental from 2000 to 2013. Okay, kaya hindi talaga siya ganong popular. So this is one of the evidence. Okay. So, sabi dito, yung bang quasi-experimental, since I mentioned experimental kanina, no? Ang quasi-experimental naman is that yung isang variable ay kinontrol mo, yung isa ay hindi. So nowadays, it's relevant in criminology, especially in evaluating prevention and intervention program. Because in quasi-experimental, we allowed comparison between groups with naturally occurring characteristics. So, enhancing understanding of etiological factors, causality, and the effectiveness of various approaches to crime. So, kung makikita natin dito sa isang example, kapag quasi-experimental, yung isa ay pinakikialaman natin. Ibig sabihin, may intervention. Okay? So, for example, ang example natin ay police visibility in a particular area. And in this side, makikita natin that meron tayong police visibility. So, we have intervention. But on the other side, no, wala tayong intervention or walang police visibility. We're referring here yung police visibility as intervention na nilagay natin. Okay? So, pwede nating tingnan doon sa A and B ang crime rate. Kung bumaba ba or tumaas. Depende nung in-apply natin tong areas with intervention. Most likely, we want to prove here that nung nilagay natin yung police visibility, nagre-reduce ang crime. At nung wala, nagtumataas ang crime. Ganun yung gusto nating patunayan dito. Doon natin makikita if the intervention is effective. Okay? And that is what we call as quasi-experimental. The very reason why we call that quasi, because yung isa, hinahayaan natin na mag-exist in a natural occurring state. However, yung isa ay meron tayong intervention. Okay. So now, after we now understand the different kinds of quantitative, we will proceed with the subtypes of qualitative research. Again, pag quantitative, yan ay yung gumagamit tayo madalas ng survey. Mamaya explain ko sa inyo yung sources of data. No? So, it's more on numbers, kaya siya quanti. So, gagamit tayo ng numbers to measure. Kasi precise ang numbers rather than using yung mga words which is not accurate. Okay, so in the qualitative, meron tayong tinatawag na case study. So, sa case study, sa criminology, it refers to the diverse application that enhance understanding of a complex social phenomenon. So usually, notably, case studies allows for an in-depth analysis of specific incidents. It provides insights that yung hindi ma-explain ng statistical methods or ma-overlook ng statistical methods. So historically, it emerged during the 20th centuries and naintindihan to at lumabas ang case study noong 1980s due to the influence of the Chicago School. Okay, so example of case study is yung mga, for example, we want to understand yung sexual violence against children, kung bakit nila ginagawa yun. So, in order for us to analyze the behavior of the perpetrator and the social dynamics involved. So that malalaman natin what would be the prevention strategies that we can craft based on the patterns of behavior of the perpetrator. Kaya siya case study because we may have observation or interview in gathering data for for this kind of research. Wherein magtatanong tayo ng ilang tao na sila yung perpetrator. Tapos, yun nga. So, why are they doing that? Ganyan. So, that is case study. Kumbaga, small population lang talaga yung target natin. Hindi yung malaking population. So, again, what would be the implication of case study? Syempre, it lack yung generalization compared to quantitative research because small population lang ang involved. Okay? So, that's case study. So, again, we want to determine the underlying factors, we want to understand bakit nila ginagawa to, and of course, to develop an effective intervention. So, here, this is an example of a case study. Okay? So, kung makikita natin dito, ang title ng study is An Analysis of the Application of Criminological Theories in Managerial Decision Making, the case of Uber. No? So, it's a case study exploring the theories in criminology in the context of the managerial decision making within the ride-sharing industry. We know Uber, di ba? So, ito yung ito yung business na kung saan sa isang application, 'di ba, na tumatawag tayo ng isang sasakyan para ihatid tayo from one location to another. So, ano yung decision, ine-explore nito yung paano nag-decide yung mga may-ari nung decision nung business na to, no, to have this application na kumbaga in the context of criminology, no, na magiging safe ba tong mga pasahero natin, no? So, paano sila nag-come up in deciding na kahit na hindi nila kilala yung driver dahil may application kami, no, matitrace natin, parang ganun. So, maybe that's one of the answer nung manager ng Uber why they decided to have this application. Kasi 'di ba yun yung isa sa mga nakakatakot kapag ka nag-Uber ka. But syempre dahil nga may tracker to, 'di ba nakikita yung location. So maybe that's one of the criminological theory na in-apply nila. Okay? So that's an example of a case study. So most likely hindi sila maraming in-interview dito. Okay, so another we have in qualitative, the phenomenological research. Etong pheno, it's more famous, no? Lalo na if you want to understand the lived experience of a person na nakakulong, ganyan, nanay na nakakulong, ganyan. So, if we want to have a deep insight, no, we need to have subjective realities, what's really happening, okay? And nuanced narratives, then we may have phenomenological. That's the positive approach of phenomenological. However, the negative implication of which is medyo time consuming kasi sometimes sa isang interview, it may take like 20 minutes to finish or kahit 30 minutes hanggang 1 hour to finish the interview. And aside from that, di ba, I mentioned that kapag nag-interview ka, itatranscribe mo pa siya, itatype mo verbatim yung naging proceedings ng interview. Then, pagka Tagalog, ita-translate mo pa into English, ganyan. So, that would be some of the negative implication of using this research design. Another thing is that, since siya ay interview, basta it's a small sample size. Basta saturated na yung data, we may stop interviewing those people o our participants. Kaya, yun lang yung isang negative niya. So, hindi siya ma-generalize. Hindi pwedeng sabihin natin na lahat na ay naka-experience nun. Hindi. Kasi nga, small sample size lang. Unlike yung quantitative, yun, malaki yung sample size na nire-require doon. Okay? Another thing is that yung researcher's bias. One thing na kaya mahirap for an undergraduate to have this kind of research design is because of the fact na yung capability to understand yung sinabi ng participant ay sometimes hindi ganun pa kalalim ang pangunawa natin. So, kaya it's very important na hindi mag-matter dapat, no? Sometimes kasi nagma-matter yung or nahahaluan ng sarili nating opinion yung dapat lang lumabas sa results, sa conclusion, sa recommendation. So, hindi dapat ganun. Kasi talagang isa yun sa mga bagay na nagkakaroon ng effect dun sa results ng study. So, that's pheno. So, usually, pag live experience, phenomenological yun. Another thing that we have in qualitative is yung tinatawag natin na historical. For example, we want to understand the evolution of Republic Act 9262. Then, therefore, pag-aaralan natin yung past events. Paano nangyari na nagkaroon tayo ng Republic Act 9262 enacted in the year 2004 ba? So, if I'm not mistaken. So titingnan natin alin yung titingnan natin yung past events. Bakit nangyari yan? Okay? Bakit nagkaroon ng syempre, meron siyang pinagdaanan, di ba? So, nagkaroon ba ng incident? Malamang meron. So, the reason kung bakit nagkaroon ng 9262. Diba? Sino ang legislator na nagsulat ng bill na yan para maging batas? Ganyan. In order for us to understand yung societal changes or yung cultural attitudes ng isang lugar. Okay? So, yan, pwede to, no? If we want to understand bakit tayo nagkaroon nito, then babalik tayo dun sa history. That's historical. Okay, so for ethnography, no? So, again, when we hear the word ethnography, di ba, it means parang we're living doon sa way of thinking nung mga tao na nandun. So, when we talk about ethnography, usually, para makakuha tayo ng data, we must live with them in order for us to understand what's happening in the ground. Kasi 'di ba kung minsan, we may not understand something unless pumunta tayo doon, tumira tayo kasama nila, marinig natin yung gusto nilang sabihin. So, that's ethnography. No, lalo na sa mga areas like yung malalayong lugar, ganyan. So, maybe hindi tayo aware what's really happening. Kaya, gumagamit tayo ng ethnography in that case. So umiikot ang ethnography sa, of course, yung mga shared beliefs and values that guides the behavior. Remember that in some culture, like here in the Philippines, meron tayong child marriage. Diba? Tapos sa Chinese naman, meron silang yung parang kahit relatives, no, okay lang, or parang mas ini-encourage nila na magpakasal, no, kahit na somehow meron silang sabihin natin na some part of the blood ay pareho, no? So, parang may relationship talaga. So, bakit kaya nila ginagawa yun? So, in order for us to understand that, dapat tanungin natin sila and we must live with them, parang ganun. So, baka naman nanggagaling naman sa lugar nila mismo, no? Kung bakit ganyan. Yung kanilang everyday routines and activities, yan, tinitingnan natin. Their interaction, no? How their exchanges with other people, how they communicate. No, sometimes gusto nating malaman how they resolve disputes in their community. Ayan. So those are the things na pwede nating i-resolve using ethnography. Minsan naman, social sa crime, like sa mga, with due respect dun sa mga areas na slums area o sabihin natin na squatter area, we want to determine bakit ganito yung behavior nila, why they are acting like that, ganon. So, yun yung isa sa ethnography na related sa criminology. So, for exploratory, that's another thing na maintindihan natin dapat in terms of qualitative. Okay, so When we hear the word exploratory, meaning to say, hindi pa natin alam kung anong nangyayari. So, the very reason kung bakit tayo magkakandak ng study is gusto nating malaman what's really happening. So, yun ang exploratory. Okay. Example of which is unveiling student awareness of anti-bullying policies. In order to answer this problem, we must interview students, 'di ba? Tapos, tingnan natin yung mismong policy. Okay? At ano yung hindi nila alam doon sa policy at nung i-interview natin sila. Okay? And then, doon din natin makikita if the policy is effective. Magtingin tayo ng data through documentation kung may nagre-report ba ng bullying dun sa school. Kasi maybe one of the reason, kasi nga hindi sila aware, hindi sila nagre-report. So, we may use yung sa documentation, interview, ayan. So, in order to inform the school kung aware ba talaga yung mga estudyante dun sa anti-bullying policy nila. So, that is exploratory. Kasi hindi natin alam kung aware sila or hindi. So, ang explanatory naman, ito magkaiba ang exploratory at explanatory. So, pag exploratory, hindi natin alam kung anong nangyayari. But, mauuna muna ang exploratory bago tayo magkaroon ng explanatory. Ngayon, kung hindi sila aware, di ba katulad ng example kanina, bakit hindi sila aware? So, pupunta tayo ngayon sa explanatory because we're asking now why. What is the reason? Bakit hindi sila aware? So, that's explanatory because we want to explain the phenomena. Okay, so another example of which is what is the impact daw of body cameras on police behavior and community trust? So, kumbaga, dito parang cause and effect siya. So, una, dun sa officer's conduct. Ayan. So, pwedeng yung body cameras, it alters how the office interacts with the public and colleagues. Siyempre, alam na niya, no? Merong body cameras. And then, it also affects the public interactions. And then, yung community trust ba, may difference dun sa pagsusuot ng body camera. So, all those things are example of explanatory. So, again, it's the ano yung impact, no? We're asking the impact of body cameras on the officer's conduct, public interactions, and community trust. So, ito yung tatlong strand na focus dito sa example na to. Okay, so after determining the different kinds of research type, we also have the data collection method. So, in data collection, meron lang tayong dalawa. We have primary data and secondary data. So, when we sabihin natin, pag narinig natin yung primary data, ibig sabihin, ikaw mismo, no? You collect the first-hand information. Pag sinabi naman nating secondary data, you're utilizing existing sources for broader context. Ibig po sabihin, hindi direct yung source. It can be through documents, tapos binasa mo. That's secondary data. No? So, okay, so which research method should be used for the study? So, for primary data, ito siya, we have observation. Observation ang tawag, if ikaw bilang researcher, you're observing the natural behavior or events. No? So, that's observation. Ngayon, pag sinabi naman natin na survey or questionnaire, meron tayong instrument na kung saan kinokolekta natin yun, no? At sinasagutan yun ng respondents. Okay? So, that is survey or questionnaire. Meron silang sinasagutan, no, na Likert scale yung, it can be 4-point Likert scale, it can be 5-point Likert scale. Meron din tayo tinatawag na focus group, kung saan sa focus group, we are exploring the shared views through a group discussion. Like for example, 5 kayo dyan na nakaupo and then you're sharing your insight about something, no? Kumbaga sharing siya. So, allowed doon na marinig yung sinabi ng kasama mo. So, posibleng may influence talaga yung sinabi ng kasama mo. Nandyan din yung it can be through experiment, which we discuss later, na yung may quasi pa experimental and experimental mismo. Ito, medyo maliit, but here are the examples of secondary data sources in criminology. So, kung naghahanap kayo ng secondary data, na kung saan dun manggagaling ang raw data nyo for your research, it can be government reports, such as yung PNP crime statistics, o kaya mga publications ng CHED or the Department of Justice na galing sa kanila. Pwede rin naman na pwede tayong magpunta na o maghanap sa mga research na pinublish, such as peer-reviewed journal, o kaya thesis, o kaya yung archive. And then, if we're looking for historical records, pwedeng court records, okay, news, o kaya archives, ayan. And then, pwede rin namang organizational report. Marami na ito sa internet, like yung report ng isang NGO. Maraming mga ganun yung mga Amnesty, something na association, yan. And then, data ng LGU o kaya ng World Health Organization o kaya data from the barangay. So, marami rin gumagawang reports na pinapublish naman nila sa internet. So, those are secondary data in criminology na kung saan pwede kayo kumuha as your source in pwede nyo kuhanan ng data sa inyong research. No? So, there is already one group na na-encounter ko na they will get secondary data sources. Okay, so this one is an example of a study entitled Strategies Used for Crime Prevention in Urban District Zanzibar. So, obviously, it's in Africa. So, published in East African Journal of Education and Social Sciences in February 28, 2023. So, ito yung kanyang content na kung saan accordingly, it used descriptive study design to establish strategies for crime prevention in Zanzibar. So, collecting 83 respondents through a questionnaire. So, kung tatanungin ko kayo, ilan po ang respondents na kinuhanan nila ng data? It's 83. Through the use of what kind of methods or data collection? It's through the use of questionnaire. So again, descriptive, ang kanilang analysis ay through the use of descriptive statistics to interpret the responses and draw conclusions about the effectiveness of various crime prevention strategies employed in the area. So, ito yung specific example na content ng isang methodology. Okay? So, andito na din, hindi ko na babasahin to, kasi nandito yung mga ginamit na crime prevention strategies. No? So, ito na lang part na to. Yung community cleaning daw, yung absence daw ng community cleaning, festival sports, volunteering for patrols, and using mobile phones. Yun yung parang mga strategies na wala doon sa lugar nila. Okay, so